All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Becker Vineyards virtual family tasting, week number 50, which we've got a beautiful lineup of our Double Gold Award winners. This is going to be a phenomenal tasting today. Outstanding wines that we have before us, and a great panel of family together. So we got Dr. Richard and Joseph Becker. We got our owners and proprietors of this wonderful establishment. We have Brett Pernew, our general manager. We have the creator of wine, Jonathan Leahy. And we have Nicole Bendelay, our tasting room manager and public relations. And then myself, Bobby Todd, an assistant tasting room manager. So we've got a great lineup. So we're going to turn it over to the panel and enjoy some wine tonight.
Thank you, Bobby. I think we need to give you a new title, though, after seeing your bandana mask today. I think we'll put you as chief train robber as well.
Yes.
So, hey, Brett, you're inside. You still have a hat on.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to keep the sun off my face, right?
Doc, Joe, would you like to kick us off with a few words?
Yeah, this week and our reason for having these virtual tastings is an escape from the pandemic and a little recognition, a big recognition, remembrance of the sacrifice on every side of this issue, and we're about to make real progress in our country and other places in the world. But it's my vote, and certainly mandated other, but it's to continue the separation and distancing and hygiene and wearing the mask until we fully escape this. I think that's more logic than science, and that's our vote anyway. But welcome and thanks to all the people for being here. And Joe,
not too much to add. Again, I always think about my children. I thank our teachers and hope everybody had a restful spring break. If you were on spring break last week, or if you're on spring break this week, resting and staying safe and getting to spend some time with your family.
Okay, I think I'll drink to that. Both of those reasons, especially to making progress and to all the wonderful teachers out there. Of which we have a fair number in our family, as it turns out. So, Brett, you're going to be on the hot seat tonight, sir.
you're all in
See what?
Introduce the Raven.
Okay, so as you guys know, this is our double gold set, the 2014 Raven, that is made up of the Malbec 60%, and then Petite Bordeaux 20%, and then Cabernet Sauvignon 20%. I hope that's right. This is one that, as you know, had to go away and be renamed, and so we got. I guess the story should be, Doc, go back and talk about these double golds before we get started, and why we put them in that fancy box, and that kind of fun stuff. I have this box. Look.
There we go. Beautiful.
And there's one missing. You see it?
I wonder why.
Yeah, I had to use that one because I couldn't find another one down here. But
We're consuming that one right now.
yeah, that 2018 contest that we sent all these wines to, and we were presented with 4 double golds. It was pretty special. We immediately tried to hold a bunch of the wine back so that we could do some fun stuff like this. And I think this is the first time that we've offered it for sale since we won them in a 4-pack like this. I'm pretty sure that's correct. But we've been able to build the library up enough where we can have a few of these wines that we could come back and revisit. But this 2014, I just remember kind of from the time that we brought it in, it was good. Or the components were really good, and we were able to kind of keep it rolling. And then we got the letter to cease and desist to using the name Raven and changed it to Ranger Hayes. So that's the end of that story for me, legally, right, Doc?
Yeah. First time I've ever been punished for making a good wine. It was kind of funny.
Well, and I still think that we got that letter because of the fact that it won a double gold. I still say if we would have kept it at home and not sent it out there, it probably would still be Raven, but it is what it is, right?
You know,
I would say what's kind of fun is that you know the Raven this week is kind of a nice continuation from, because we had the Malbec last week.
Mhm.
And as I was kind of mentioning last week, I don't spend too much time on it, but just you know, kind of the interesting journey that Malbec has had, going from you know, just to start briefly, one of the primary Bordeaux varietals to, you know, a lot of the Bordeaux vineyards, and you know, the Malbec constitutes some of the Raven, and so, but the reason I'm saying this, and so, but our inspiration from this came from, you know, the Raven story when it was introduced to Argentina in the 19th century, and so I think it was on a trip to Argentina that my parents and my brother got to taste some of those kind of wonderful, darker, richer Malbecs that led to us originally creating the Raven, which traditionally was a Malbec Petite Bordeaux blend. But so I think this is just sort of a if you were part of the tasting last week, kind of an interesting continuation.
well, Brett, you got out of talking about the Raven for a couple of minutes. What are your impressions of it?
Well, I think it's got definitely a Malbec note, and I know that we try to keep that kind of true when we're doing these different wines. And to me, if I tasted this, I would think Malbec to begin with. And I think it's got a lot of leather notes and all those dark kind of fruits that we like to get out of the other things, which is the Cabernet and the Petite Bordeaux. But you know, one of the things I think people forget is how we do these blends. You know, John gets to take the best grapes, I think, in the world, and bring them into the winery, and then they get to put them in the barrels that we are fortunate enough to buy, and go through the process of making wine. And I do think that this is kind of a culmination of that. It shows the varieties that we put in there with the Malbec and the Petite Bordeaux and the Cabernet. But I mean, obviously the Petite Bordeaux is adding a lot to this. I can taste it in here too, with those really, really dark notes. So that's what I'm getting on this one.
But I got a little cattiness on mine. Yeah.
I'm seeing that.
That's real cat pee.
Yeah, he just decided to jump up right in the middle of Brett's speech, and the tail comes licking up. I apologize.
That's fine. I can talk right through it.
It's because you're the consummate professional.
And my screen is so tiny because I'm using my phone. I could just barely see this little thing wiping in front of your face.
Right?
And I thought it was Jody giving you like makeup job.
Could have been. So Nicole, what are your impressions of the Raven, the 14?
I'm really excited about the tannin structure. Structure is fabulous, and it's also as far as texture, it's very chewy. I think on the nose, pick up like some forest floor, a little bit of earthiness. I know this is gonna be a weird description, but some moss and lots of dried raspberry notes. But beautiful. It's I haven't got to try it in I think it's been probably about 2 or 3 years, so it's kind of fun to revisit something that's been sleeping peacefully in the underground cellar.
It has been. You know, I like the fact that you use that word moss, because that is a really nice that earthiness in there. Mm. So, Joe, you gave us a wonderful talk about it, but what are,
I know. I'm sorry. I stepped out to take a phone call. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You've had every single Raven there. So impressions of the 14, and then maybe we should talk about the transition from the Raven to the Ranger Haze, because we did go through what we call an orphan year. So we skipped an entire year's worth of production to change the name. So what are your impressions of the Raven, and how do you feel the transition is into the next level?
You know, I think it's interesting. I think our first Raven was maybe 6 or 7, something 2006, 2007. And I know I missed this before, but when we were able to do the the tours of our library, the library tour, I always thought Nicole set up a nice vertical of 7, 8, 9 with our Ravens, 7 and 8 being the kind of original traditional Malbec Petite Bordeaux blend, mostly from Mason County. Then 2009, it was Canada Cab and Petite Bordeaux, and that was a completely different style, a little bit darker. I feel this has some cab in it, so I do feel there's some similarity to that 2009 when I think about it. Very, very wonderful, very rich. And then I think the Ranger Haze. John, I really think you've done a wonderful job bringing out some of the really nice fruit notes in the more recent Ranger Haze. But this is beautiful. This almost has a little bit of violet to me on the mid palate. I agree with what Nicole said, but I think it's a very complex, very interesting wine. I can't remember the last time I tasted it.
Yeah,
I'm old, but when I taste the wines that I'm especially proud of, I'm always trying to think of what other wonderful wines does this sort of reflect, and maybe a Barolo. I don't know. Do you see anything down that road? A really nice mature Barolo.
It's funny because now that you mentioned that, yeah, I can catch a hint of a really well-rounded Nebbiolo in there. Edge to it. And I think it's that, I don't want to say it's cooked fruit, it's more jammy, but that that's got to go back to that earthiness and that almost coffee or licorice edge to it, the violet.
Yeah. Right. And Malbec was famous for the coffee notes, and I think that's coming through.
Yeah,
the most notable thing for me about where this began was that we were in Mendoza, and the winemakers there were just unbelievably wonderful in their hospitality. And the minute they found out we had something to do with a winery, especially a Texas winery, they took us back to the barrel shade. They gave us all kinds of barrel tastings, and almost every one of them said his or her first choice for blending with Malbec was Petite Bordeaux. And they had a lot of wonderful Petite Bordeaux and barreled. And it was fun to taste, their barrel Malbec, their barrel Petite Bordeaux, and see how they were putting it together. But that's really where that first came from. I remember Brenton was there. We had the Malbec and Petite Bordeaux barrels were side by side in one of the rows, and we started tasting them together. It really worked well.
And John, Doc made this really scientific blend where he took about 50% in the glass out of the thief and did a 50-50 blend, and the rest is history. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He's done that more than once.
Yeah. John, all science is measurement, but not all measurement is scientific. So that's what you have to take it from there.
In the back of my mind.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think what really surprised me overall is not that any one of these wines are good. We have a good team. We have good fruit. We have everything in place for that. But the fact that we got all 4 double golds for these the same year, and it was really funny the amount of back end attention that we got, like getting calls from the Hearst organization that sponsors it, several other people talking about Texas wines, kind of another pole vault into bringing Texas wine in the forefront of the consumer's mind. But I think it's the not so well guarded secret that all the consumers in Texas know that Texas wine is pretty tasty stuff, and then to suddenly see us on an international scope that we consistently produce really good wine as a state, and then of course as our organization, because like I like to say, we're the most awarded winery in the state.
Hey, look.
Tell my assistant winemaker thanks for the tasting notes.
Hey, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
So, any other things to add to the Raven? Rachel, do you want to talk about the 14?
I'm good.
Can I say one thing? Is this the 14 Canada Cab that's in here?
No, this is the 2 cabs are both 15.
Oh, they are both 15s that are in here.
But are you asking
Okay.
about and the Raven?
Oh, in
Yes.
the Raven, in the blend?
Yeah, the cab that's blended into the Raven.
Yeah, actually, it is the Canada Family Cab that's blended into the Raven.
And that's 14, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I was just I know I'm sure you use that as somewhat of a backbone for these wines. But I was just thinking when we did the vertical tasting of the Canadas, it was the 15 that was very bold. I know we're going to taste that in a second, and then the 14 was one we thought would be mature very nicely, and I feel like it's doing this very nicely in the Raven.
Oh, it is. It is. It's definitely. I found it interesting tasting these right before we started doing the Facebook Live was the fact that the Raven was a little softer and more round than the Reserve Merlot. That's why we decided on the Raven as the first go round, because the Merlot is actually slightly bolder than the Raven, which really surprised me comparing them side by side. Because I usually think of Merlot as being very velvety, very round. And this Malbec Petite Bordeaux Cab blend is absolutely stellar, but it is soft and round and brilliant. It was kind of nice to see that, to do that comparison. But yeah, I do believe that Canada Cab is offering that nice roundness to it, for sure, on that, especially on 5 and 6 on the palate. Oh, somebody just asked Brett if we saved Petite Bordeaux for blending.
If we saved it,
Yeah, did we save Petite Bordeaux for blending?
don't we put it? Don't y'all want to put it in everything? No.
Yeah. Somebody does.
I wish we had enough to save.
We
No,
do.
we don't save a lot of it.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's also one that's really hard to grow. I don't think it's in any of these other blends. I'll talk about it real quick. But, Petite Bordeaux, the word petite means obviously it's small. And the growers, when it comes off the talent vineyard or the ready vineyard or our vineyard that we buy it from, the berries are like the size of little peas. And so it takes a lot of those to add up to be a ton. And so a lot of times you're getting that dark note from the juice and the skin ratio and then the size of the berry. I think it's actually more seed on the inside than it is pulp. And that's what gives those crazy tannins.
Yeah, we get some very good Petite Bordeaux here, and it is easy to put it in everything, especially Drew Talent's Petite Bordeaux. For some reason, the last couple of years, it's been okay. Yeah, really. So the inside joke is that Rachel makes all of the wine from the Talent Vineyard. So I have to give her at least a little bit of grief. The fact that otherwise she'll thinks that she's perfect, even though she is. Okay, shall we go on to the next wine? Because I'm biting at the chomp over this one. Any objections?
I want to show everybody the fancy decanters we get here at the winery. They're called Beckers.
Great.
Since we didn't want to open too many of these packs up, Bobby's upstairs, and so we took our half down here, and Bobby's got the real bottles, but it's working good as a decanter.
We had a medical. Did we have a medical specimen in that show?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Rinse it out a little bit.
Growing cultures.
No cultures outside of harvest.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a midstream, I think, so it's probably better thing.
I think we did a
Okay.
good job.
Nicole, you want to lead off on the Reserve Merlot?
Okay. I would say color wise, kind of, and as far as like the aromatics, seems like you pick up kind of like a cigar box, also a little cigar smoke. But then when you're tasting on the palate, it's like there's stems, and then there's also some mulberries, maybe some stewed plums with this. Delicious Merlot, holding up wonderfully.
I get, when I first opened this before decanting, I got a touch of the herb dill, which is which is actually pretty common in Merlot, especially something that's been locked away for a while. But that's blown off in a sense, kind of gone more to the almost mint family side of herbaceousness. Joe, Doc, impressions?
Is this fermented grape juice?
Wow. You stole the words right out of my mouth.
Tastes like a red.
You know, actually, what I was just to I can't think of the word. Just to get a little publicity for our cruise. This actually is 4 really wonderful bottles of Bordeaux styled wines tonight. Makes me want to sneak a few of these into France when we go in July. You know, these are all very, you know, some of these very Bordelais in terms of their direction, but the Merlot is just it's very dark. I agree with what Nicole said. It's a little bit of just a hint of perfume on the nose. It's very nice.
You're up, Doc.
I know it, and I'm trying to think of other wine that this will remind me of, and I'm not doing. Let me work on it for a minute.
Bobby?
It has still a powerful fruit note and strawberry, really.
Well, Bobby, why don't we give Doc a minute? Yeah. Yes, sir. Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, is this what percent is this 100% or 95% Merlot, or just out of curiosity?
Well, then we've got. Let me pull that up. Since yeah, here we go. So we've got in here. Let me just do the varietals first, and then I'll tell you where the growers came from. The vintage varietal. Here we go. So it is. It's 86% Merlot, and then it's got Cab, Petite Bordeaux in there, and just a touch, literally 2% of Petite Syrah. So,
Wow.
yeah, and that Petite Syrah came from the front vineyard. Now the vineyard grower by varietal here, we've got Jet Merlot, Steve Newsom Merlot, and Ready Merlot in there, as well as just a touch of Ready PV, and then of course the Becker Petite Syrah.
We've had something similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't place it.
Did you get all of that?
Yeah, I translated. It's really dang good for a $16 bottle of wine in distribution in Texas. So go buy it. Even though this has been gone for a long time, you can get the current release, and it's as good, I think, if not better. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Bobby, what are your impressions of the wine?
Yeah, so you got a nice rim variation going on. I mean, it's still showing young on the rim variation. The nose is just beautiful. Definitely getting those stewed fruits. Definitely getting some chocolate, some of that tobacco as well. So nice, almost like a medium cigar, not like a full, like heavy cigar. But yeah, the palate, it's just beautiful, beautiful cherries, some of that chocolate as well.
Yeah, I get that chocolate and coffee notes there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And the dust, John, what is the dust from the? Where's the dust come from in this?
That dust, that dusty note from the celery. Yeah, fair portion of new oak on the Merlots for that year. Actually, I don't have the barrel breakdown right in front of me, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we had a little more than 40% new oak on this stuff. But don't tell Brett.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Wasn't meant for you.
Well, you know, Doc, that's one of the things I actually look for when I'm opening up an older bottle of wine. Do I smell that dust, that edge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that new oak is really, really important for those to rectify those tannins, to let those chains build longer and longer. That the new oak helps that.
Sure.
So,
I
Dr.
thought it was just West Texas
sipping on
red soil. Sorry, Nicole.
Do you find yourself finding them like reminiscent of some of your travels in different parts of France?
I'm not, you're breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry.
When you're tasting through some of our older wines, do you find yourself, do they seem very familiar reminiscent of when you've been traveling through Bordeaux in France?
I don't know if I can say that, but I try to do that, and I try to remember what I've tasted, and I, one of the most amazing things for me about this whole process is that there's a memory for taste that I didn't know existed, and I think it's, and I've realized how critical that is for a winemaker or for a chef or people that are doing this sort of thing. It's just it's everything. And if you and I just didn't know it was there, and I'm not sure that I have a great sense of it, but I try to do that. That's for sure. Yeah. John, Rachel, how about your taste memory? Were you surprised to discover this exists when you began making wine? Did you heard about this?
Actually, I absolutely was. When I first started in the wine industry, I have to admit, and I know I'm sorry, but I've come around. Texas Merlots were not my favorite. But I think that maybe my palate has grown a little bit better. I think maybe us as an industry has grown and really kind of dialed in how to handle Merlots as far as the grape growing and the winemaking aspect of it. And I 100% am converted into a Texas Merlot drinker now. And then, to find out that this little beauty got not just one, but 2 double golds. That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's all right.
It did. Yeah, that's right. This was the wine that got sent out twice, 2 years in a row. And both years they got double gold. Which is kind of funny. Yeah. Doc, after tasting around and looking at the fruit, I'm glad we were able to do this. I don't think I was surprised as much as I was gratified that my guess was correct. That we had growers looking at the fruit and everything and being able to play with it for a few years. I don't want that to sound horrible. If given the right tools for the job, you should be able to do a good job. If perseverance and a really good team and a little bit of humility, which apparently the humility part I'm lacking. Because I really wanted to tell Rachel, it's because the genius you work with, but then Brett was going to take credit. But the fruit quality was there, so being able to extract that out was a really nice to be able to do that. And this wine, what's really surprising is how long it's lasted and how long I think it's going to last. I think this particular vintage is going to last.
So after it won the gold medal, we had just shipped the last.
I think all these wines.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so after it won the double gold, we had just shipped the last 2 pallets to the distribution outlet, so it went to the warehouse. So we had to go bring 2 pallets and switch out with the new vintage. So that's the only reason why we have any of this left is like, holy cow, there's this one. We just shipped the last truck. We sent the trucks down there to bring back. We did a swap for vintage, had to do a credit on the invoices, and we got about 200 of the little 6-packs back of this one. And it was kind of a neat thing that we got it back.
Yeah. Joe, to your point, this might be a fun wine to take with us this summer. That it wouldn't take very much of it.
That's good. I don't think there's very much left. Those 200 6-packs we just brought back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they kind of go pretty quick.
So if you have it, put it away in the back of the closet and leave it alone.
Absolutely. So speaking of that, Doc, Joe, what do you guys think? How long do you think this should last in bottle, if well cared for?
I think this could last at least 10 years.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really don't know about this, and it's going to be. We have a bunch of next generation running around. Maybe some of them will taste this in 40 years and say it's finally arrived. So that's my hope.
Right on. Absolutely. Okay. So if there are no other. Yes, sir.
John, but let me ask, you really are, you have the real tasting experience in that, and you've tasted a lot of wines, after tasting them, making them, tasting them young. Um, how do you see this in terms of that experience?
Well, it's a very good point, because early on in the season, I do, when we're tasting these Merlots, you do have those same flavor profiles in the young wines, so that gives you a lot of good hope, provided we take care of it correctly, that these wines will come to a full maturity and will last. So we're seeing the tannin, we're seeing those green flavors that you really want to see when it's a young wine, especially at the press, when we're actually pressing and deciding that press cut. And I hope both Steve Newsom and Jet and Reddy are not watching this, because all three of those vineyards produce some damn good fruit, and it's very, very exciting when it comes in, and it looks perfect. It smells great. It gets into that press, and then Rachel will come in. She's like, I don't know. And she'll walk away, and she'll come back. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, it's good. It's kind of fun. But we both have to go out there and taste and taste and taste. And you do find the earmark for really good wine you find in Texas fruit young, or at least the fruit at our facility. There are 100,000 ways you can mess up wine, and there are a few dozen ways that you can make it really, really champion it. And so I guess our job is to make sure we follow that straight and narrow path. But as far as young, I still think this wine is very young. Like the bottle right now as it is, I still think it as, well, this isn't just a 16. I think of it as even bigger. So that gives me good hope. And as Bobby mentioned, especially when you look at the meniscus and how bright and not browning it is,
Right.
That really gives me good hope. If you just put it in an even temperatured storage area, leave it alone, I think you're going to have just a velvet dream in about 10 years.
Nice.
Or 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what's happening to the Becker Viognier right now? Charles, you're going to have to explain.
Sorry.
What's happening to the Viognier?
What's happening to the Viognier?
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
Hey,
what are you talking about, buddy?
What point of the
Put a
conversation?
GoPro cam and leave it like what's happening to the Viognier, and let the camera sit there and watch the barrel just stay there for 6 months and it never changes.
Look, it's aging.
Figure on where's Waldo. What's with the Viognier?
Yeah. Well, we've had some very
I
good
do
news.
want to say, John, it's worth saying that, especially this audience, and certainly I'm terribly biased, but I always thought we made the best Viognier in Texas and in the world at our winery. And both our standard Viognier and our reserve Viognier each won double gold in San Francisco this year. And I just want to tell you, I'm really proud of that. And both of you, it's a exciting.
We are also very proud, Doc, and very, very happy. And it is fun to be able to brag. It's a lot of fun to be able to brag that you belong to a team that makes really good fruit into really good wine. That's the one thing I love. Being able to go in and know that we do a pretty good job, and that people enjoy it. It is a lot of fun to be able to see people talk about it when they don't know who you are, walking through the tasting room or when you're out at a restaurant. And that is kind of fun. And I know both Rachel and I have experienced it, where you're sitting at a local restaurant, somebody has your wine or is talking about the experience they had at the winery. And it's always a nice thing to be able to.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Brett, a great environment to create.
So let's not go that far, Doc. Come on.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I was going to commend Doc on his well-placed plug, is now when we talk about what our next tasting is.
Yeah, right. The end.
So I had to.
And one other comment is that this double gold stuff is really the equivalent of Paris tasting every year. So we have these wines that have won all these double gold medals, including Viognier and the ones we're tasting. These are all basically French, basically all California winemakers and wine people, all blind, tasting these wines, these Texas wines, in with, you name it, great wines from all over the world, and a lot from the West Coast. So it's really like the Paris tasting. It's like, that's why we're so proud of this, so that they will walk away and name some Texas wines as the very best they tasted. And so anyway, a tribute again. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a lot to be proud of, and it really is exciting. And what's really fun is every once in a while getting a phone call from a previous coworker or a colleague who was a judge, which happened a couple of years ago, which happened on this particular tasting in 2018. Got 2 phone calls, and of course I knew they enjoyed it because they're like, "I can't believe you made that." Thanks, buddy.
Have you been friends with them for a long time?
Yeah, right.
And they've known you for a really long time?
Friends, yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on to the Cabernet?
Please.
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 We'll save this conversation for next week. We'll be back.
And on to the next wine.
Yeah, so this is the Canada Family Vineyards 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon. Okay, Rachel, you're batter up. You move this one off.
All right. So my first couple of thoughts on this is, so it's Canada, and we still get those pyrazines. I don't feel like they're as pronounced as some of the more recent vintages, but they're absolutely still there. It's not that blatant, almost jalapeno, but I mean, just those bright greens are there. And then again, that dustiness that we were just talking about, that so often I associate with the more of the red West Texas soil and not Canada's more granitic black soil. That's good.
That's a good raspberry. So, Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. No.
I wrote out our notes for
Yeah,
us.
I concur.
Sure.
Nice. Well, okay, I'm going to pull up some notes here. Bobby, what are your impressions, sir?
So one thing that really stands out with the Canada family, because their soil is pretty rocky, I get a little bit more minerality out of her wine than like Jet's Cab. So it's fun having that distinction between that 12 to 15 mile difference there. The soil's like, it's got a totally different like mouthfeel, totally different characteristic. But yeah, so the Rachel's mentioned about the pyrazines, that green vegetal characteristic, it's not as pronounced in this wine as other vintages, but getting still that bright fruit on the front of the palate, and just smelling this is just the beautiful raspberries, and on the palate getting that bright raspberry notes as well, and then some of that dustiness, and then hints of that earthiness on the finish as well.
Nicole, speak up, girl.
Nicole, are you at the winery?
I am. I'm in the bottling line barrel.
That's her house.
I know, that's what I was like.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were here, but I was like, that looks like the barrel shade. You got good internet over there, I think.
I do. I've got full service. So
Good.
I would say as far as color, I think it's another like a deep burgundy, and on the nose, I do pick up the it's got a little light vegetative, maybe a little more herbaceous, maybe picking up some marjoram, and on the palate, it's kind of a meaty wine. So typically with our younger wines, we pick up lots of fruit, and this does have great fruit notes, but you're also, because it's getting older, you have some more depth. You've got a little more of a meatiness to it. And also on the, I guess like a secondary, maybe a secondary flavoring, I'm picking up a little brulee. Like on a young Cabernet, it's not unusual to have some of your baking spice, but I think now that it's older, it's kind of gone into like the brulee kind of characteristic, but it's going to be more subtle than these other descriptions.
Pebbles liked it also. So
As they say, apparently I'm not the only one with a cat.
The what?
No, the cat just, I think, clogged Joe.
Oh no.
Um,
Was it a cat or was it a leprechaun?
yeah, exactly. So Joe, yeah. So Joe, what are
I
your?
was just going to say, yeah. Actually, I was going to. One thing I wanted to just say about Nicole for people that don't know. Obviously, both people know that Nicole's been with us since day one, but Nicole is a very, very prominent member in a local food and wine or international food and wine organization called Les Dames des Scoffiers, and has been absolutely, from what I hear, amazing member. People that work with her, and so I just think that's worth mentioning, Nicole, because I know you've worked very hard.
Thank you.
But John, I think this, sure, and I think it's fun to taste this because we taste the 2017 Canada Cab, an amazing vintage. But with this one, won a double gold. But even now, I feel like, some of those younger, lighter fruit notes that you get in the Canada Cab are starting to integrate, are starting to darken and enrichen a little bit. It's really coming together even more so than it was.
Yeah, Joe, I do agree with you. Jody and I were tasting this right before we went on air. I was trying to figure out what would be a great lineup, and the thing that I noticed about these, not tasting them for a while, is how much deeper they've actually become over time. Both the Canada and the Jet have become a little bit bolder, which those tannins have really kind of resolved. But more importantly, I think that we haven't lost the fruit, but those pyrazines have become more integrated too. And to Rachel's point about the pyrazine level on the Canada, it's always prominent, but it really has accentuated. As much as I enjoy this wine, every time I smell it and take a sip, I just think this really needs food. This is just a food-centric cab. So, and I'm really enjoying the Canada.
I want to ask you what I think is when I smell this wine, it has an herbal note, like the Russian River Valley wines, and you can always. When you just take one sniff of that wine, you can frequently say this is Russian River fruit. What is the note? What's the herbal note here? And it's so singular in grapes from grapes of Texas, in my opinion. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sometimes you get that cedar berry a little bit in the Russian River Valley.
Yeah, the commonality of herbal note I get in there, Doc, is actually like mint member family. Like it could be lavender, it could be thyme, it could be tarragon, but it's in that it just seems to string through. And the cedarberry note, to your point, Nicole, absolutely in the Russian River fruit, but I do get a lot of menthol to eucalyptus in Russian River fruit.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you agree with what I'm saying about that? None of the other cab in Texas has this particular note. I mean,
no, it's definitely unique to Brendan and Dwayne's property.
Yeah, I think so. That's what
And I've told the story a lot about when we went that time and it rained a bunch and all the rocks were out there, and I took the field trip and I made everybody lick the rocks that were on the ground. I mean, that's what it tastes like, and unless you go there, we should start selling field trips out there to go pick up a rock. And we'll wash it real good, and you can lick it. But that's that note that you're tasting in this, I think.
You should encourage anybody.
Brett, I think you actually just hit it. Brett, I really think you just hit it. We could sell like a weekend trip where we stop we do the whole grower trip where we stop for the barbecue on the way up, stay at the hotel, we do the vineyards. Yeah.
Bless the Canadas. I
think Dwayne would sell every rock out of that vineyard.
He would. And I
$5 a rock.
I don't think you could sell every rock out of that vineyard in the next 5 lifetimes. We should do a rock tasting panel where we sell rocks from each vineyard in a little box, a box of rocks.
I like it.
Why did you have to take it that way? I was being serious.
I'm dead serious. You could sell a weekend.
You can have a rocking good time.
I like it.
Irish shepherd's pie today. In true shepherd pie, you need, I'm sorry, but you need lamb.
That's right.
Exactly. And no, I'm not doing shepherd's pie today. I'm doing roasted chicken. So,
Other end of the spectrum.
yeah.
Is this what happens after doing 50 weeks of these?
Exactly. Now, are there any other
Wow.
comments or questions about the Canada cab before we move on to the jet? Because I do want to come back and I want to do a little comparison on the jet to Canada, since they're the same vintage and we haven't done that. But we'll get everybody their jet cab. Okay, Brett, you popped out of the last one. You're going to have to lead some tasting notes on the jet cab.
Okay.
The man of many words.
Yeah, exactly. When's dinner, Brett?
Dinner time.
I think this smells like tenderloin and asparagus. No, I don't care.
I think somebody's hungry.
No, I think one of the things that is always amazing to me about Jet's cab is that how much fruit it holds from the time that it gets here early, and even this one being a 15. So again, we're getting tannins, we're getting a note of the dark berries, and I think if you put Canada and Wilmot together like we did right here, which, you know, in our library where we're sitting, all these wines are stored back here behind us, and there's still a lot of them, even though Doc thinks we drink them on Wednesdays for lunch. But I always love to compare these two side by side. I think it's one of the funnest things that we get to do at the winery, and it's educational in the fact that the soils are so different. That Jet's cab has a lot more fruit notes early. The Canada has the pyrazines, but like to me, this is a nice balance between the fruit notes, the oak, and the alcohol. And I feel like I'm a broken record since this is week 50 of these. That we're talking about balance of oak and tannins and fruit notes, but I really get a lot more of the darker fruits on this usually. And then as these get older, they kind of all chill out, but they don't really change that much. The Canada kind of calms down on the pyrazine, but to me, and I just tried the one upstairs, that's the current release, which is the 17, and that one's got a lot of like dark blackberry notes, like it's that dark fruit. This one is a little chill because it's a little older, but that's what I'm getting.
But you know, the thing that always strikes me about the Canada versus the Jet, the pyrazine in the Canada displays as bell pepper. The pyrazine in Jet comes across more as the earthiness, almost a coffee or chocolate edge.
Yeah.
That's I think the biggest difference between the two for me, when you go to smell and taste them. But you're right, Brett, it does, it kind of matures to a point, and it's always going to be Jet or Canada on there. So Nicole, what do you think?
Let's see, I think aromatics, I pick up a lot of black pepper, and there's also some caramel to play. And then on the palate, I pick up it's very rich, it's very glossy, and some candied raspberries with this. And a little bit of smokiness as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of the smoke is almost a little bit subtle. I know we like to age, 2 years for our reserve Cabernet Sauvignons, but it's present, but it's a little more on the subtle side.
Yeah.
I also would like to just kind of do like a shout out. So I know Bobby was announced as our assistant tasting room coordinator, but he's also a sommelier, as is Kaylin Hall and our part-timer Jessica Long. And then I myself am also a sommelier as well. So if anybody out there has questions on wine, if they can't get a hold of John or even or Rachel or Dr. Becker, we're all welcome. We're all here to help you if y'all need any assistance.
Yeah, we are very fortunate to have some really good wine educators on staff. Absolutely. Okay, Doc, Joe, what are your impressions?
Well, again, I'm trying to think of different Bordeaux that I've loved, comparing the Wilmot and Canada. And maybe the Canada's a little more like down the Latour line for me, and this is a little bit Margot. I understand these are grandiose comparisons, but as a young wine, this is really quite beautiful. You know, and this is very young. This wine will be good in 20 or 30 years at speed, I think. But I love it. It has all of the earthiness, the all the terroir notes, the forest floor and humus and cigar box and saddle leather, all the things that you think about.
Right.
Wonderful Bordeaux, but this is just a great wine. I mean, way to go.
It's funny you should mention those because we do have a fair portion of Merlot in this one, so that's kind of interesting. And you know, both the Cab and the Merlot are from Jet.
Yeah.
It was fun putting this one together, and there's just a touch of Cabernet in here too, just a couple percentage points.
Hey, Brett, you touch on how Jet had a couple of rough years, like, you have that Mother Nature part that, you can have hail, you can have different things that wreck on your vineyard. But can you touch off on how he had some rough years and then finally we're able to see more of the fruit and how it's come along?
Well, I think the biggest thing people don't realize is when we get to try these, it's kind of the romantic part of the tasting or the fun part. But when they have a freeze event like they had in 2013, he lost 80% or 90% of his vineyard. In the subsequent years, they were kind of prepared for that freeze. And I think that I don't know if it was in this vintage in 15, they put about 150 hay bales around his vineyard, and they lit them on fire. When I say hay bales, I'm like the ones that are the big as the back of a pickup truck. Lit them on fire, and then they flew helicopters to turn the air over to get that heat to go the right direction. And so since then, he said, I don't really like that plan that much. So I think he went and bought like 300,000 gallon propane tanks and put heaters, these little heaters out in the vineyard that blow hot air. And he literally has to put these 300 tanks out down the middle of the row, run gas line on the ground. And that's kind of the stuff that they deal with to try to make a crop up there. And again, if the wind's blowing, none of that works. And guess what happens a lot in Lubbock? The wind blows. Just like here, we have 40-mile-an-hour winds in most of the state today. But if that was a freeze event, none of those things are going to work. But that's kind of the plight of the grower, where they're trying to get the fruit to the winery, and they deal with this consistently year after year after year. And again, we grow grapes here at the estate property, and hopefully we'll see the vines waking up in the next couple of weeks, and we're getting bud break where we're seeing little tiny leaves come out of the vines. But hopefully I call it the blizdemic. We got some ice on the vines, and hopefully that ice kind of protected them a little bit, but we don't know yet. So and every one of the growers in the state goes through the same thing. It's not like Jet's unique. It's just a matter that it's the amount of time and effort that they put into trying to get a crop.
Well, I was happy to see the Sanjo yesterday pushing their little leaf buds.
Yeah, it's got little tiny. I got a picture.
Yeah,
Cool.
That's the wine club block, John. That's why it's special.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say this about Jet. He's a little bit unique in his methods of dealing with things. I don't know that there's anybody else that has 300 propane tanks out there to individually warm rows and rows and rows of grapes. I think one of the other things that's pretty unique about his particular vineyard is the cab that we get in. There's at least 2 different ages, and they're pretty far apart. They're at least 10 years apart, right? And there's a difference in the fruit that comes in. There's a difference in the maturity of the fruit, even when it first arrives. And I think part of what makes Jet's Cab so uniquely Jet's Cab is that homogeneous of the 2 ages of the cabs that come in.
And the Canada is the same way. It's about 3 or 4 different plantings.
I think he's developed this technique of wind aeration, of driving his pickup 60 miles an hour down the vine rows, and that nothing else explains that. So.
That was a fun day too.
That was a fun day.
Yeah, I think if he hits one dirt clod, we're going to take out 300 plants before he even gets this thing stopped.
We do this all the time.
Yeah, he does. Oh, my favorite is that Gay finally told him we couldn't store the motorcycle in the living room.
Jeff, I'm not happy about that. It's something else.
Oh, great. Okay, guys, you have 4 wines, and we need 4 pairings. So, and Brett, you can't have 4 tenderloins.
Oh, yes, I can.
Hi. Nicole, what would you start with food for some of these wines? You don't have to do all 4, just a couple of them if you would like.
Okay. Let's see. I would say the Canada Cab. I'm definitely thinking like lamb, like maybe lamb tenderloin.
Mhm.
I would say on Merlot, I'm probably thinking maybe like a roast with lots of potatoes and carrots, roasted vegetables. Raven. Let's see. I would say I might even do maybe do some pork. Also, maybe like a country style liver pate. Or it could even be like a mousse style, and definitely some hard cheeses. And then with the Wilmot, gosh, I'm biased. One of my favorite cuts of meat, rib, just a good old ribeye with a little black pepper, a little bit of salt, and just keep it simple.
Right on. Bobby?
I think across the board, I'm thinking of a beef bourguignon.
Ooh, yeah, yum yum.
Just across the board.
For any of them?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to taste some of Chef Michael's beef bourguignon here, and it's just I still have dreams about it.
Bobby, when you wake up screaming and you're sweating, that's called a nightmare.
No. But that's called withdrawals.
So Rachel, what would you pair?
Well, I think Bobby actually stole my notes, but I was going to say steak, and beef bourguignon.
And beef bourguignon. Okay. Brett?
I already answered.
He's 4 steaks.
Yeah.
4 tenderloins?
Yeah, get over it. It's done.
It's done.
I'm trying to get a sponsorship so they'll start sending it to me.
Yeah.
You know?
I think both Lisa I think Lisa's on to you.
One a week.
Yeah. Doc, what would you pair, sir?
And it's not shrimp, and it's not.
For me, I would say
Pecans.
Let him answer. If it's pecans, it's pecans.
Did you say pecans?
Yeah.
We've beaten the pecan.
Yeah.
I think my answer is I would ship these 4 bottles of wine to my sister Carolyn, and tell her we're coming, and tell her to pair them, and it would be really good.
Still waiting for that rest
For
of
that answer, yeah, everybody has to contact Carolyn and find out what she's using for these 4 wines. That's right.
He also likes to make a lot of homemade bread and has a homemade starter too. That would go with.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, her bread is woo.
Oh, somebody just piped in, said they're having stroganoff. So
Be delicious.
So Joe, what would you do? Would you just ride on the coattails and go to your Aunt Carolyn's?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm already, my mouth's already watering over that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I just realized, John, we did ship all these wines to my sister. So tell her we're coming. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
We'll be there in a couple hours.
Yeah, right. Only if she's going to do those tarts.
Yeah.
The turnovers.
And John, what
Yes,
are you pairing?
What
are you pairing?
My chair and the sunset. Just, I'm going to enjoy these wines. No,
John, that's
actually,
like Brett's cab. You got to do better. I mean, Brett's tenderloin. You
right?
got to do better than that.
You really,
Corned beef.
honest to God, you can't do better than tenderloin with any one of these. And Brett cooked us last year when we were up doing our vineyard tours. He actually grilled a tenderloin for us one night for dinner. We were at one of our vineyard
Ooh,
homes. And
He has patience with it. That's important.
oh, it was damn good. It actually inspired me to try to not burn the I did a 5-pound tenderloin out on the grill. So, but I have to say,
John, you're not supposed to tell them we don't eat, the fast food as we're going up there.
yeah.
Through our vineyard visits, we eat only the fast food places that we're out of, and it's like $7 a person.
Well, I do those little corn fritter things that Chris turned me on to from something. I don't know. Those seem addictive.
Chicken Express.
Yeah,
Corn.
okay.
He's addicted to corn.
Yeah. I would say though, honestly, lamb. I think lamb would go well with any one of these wines. So.
you bet. Yeah. The other Tom, I want to say, John, is that for I think 10 or 12 years, we poured our Cabernets side by side with Tom and Lisa Perini's wonderful tenderloin, and that's hard to beat with this. Anybody who's not had this should get Perini Ranch up on the internet and order their tenderloin.
Oh, I agree. Those tenderloins are awesome.
Brett tasted it, I think, a few times.
Yeah, I get one a week. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
That's it. Alrighty. So, Brett? What's up next week for the tasting pack, or Bobby?
All right, so I got this because we had this big discussion here about as we're running through these weeks. I think we've done 151 different wines after today, because this is week 50 and we did 3 wines every week except for this week. We did 4. So as we're trying to come up with the next one, we get this new award list from the San Francisco Chronicle. And we went 2 double golds, and so next week is the Viognier flight that we won double gold with, the one that's in distribution right now, and I'm gonna have to look at the vintages on my computer. I think it's 2018
18 and 19.
19, yeah.
18, 19 next week.
Yeah, so the current release in the tasting room is 2017. Then we're going to do the 2018 reserve, and then the 2019 distribution Viognier, which you could find in your local retailer across the state of Texas. Probably the most widely distributed Viognier that there is. So we've sold a lot of these packs.
It is, Brett.
So
Yeah.
the next question is, what are we going to do for week 52, which is our, and I think we ought to do like a viewer's choice. So I talked to Rebecca today. She's going to send an email out, as long as nobody here disagrees, and I'm throwing this at y'all on the fly. So if you don't like it, say it now. But I think we ought to do the viewer's choice for week 52. And
Oh yeah.
so post your comments in an email, and then week 52 will be picked by our fans and our wine club and all that kind of fun stuff.
Don't forget also this year, we also got a double gold for the distribution Sauvignon Blanc. Even though we're not tasting it, it's out there if people want to grab it off the shelf.
Oh yeah. So the list that we just won was that big one, and again we're going to keep rolling with these. They're fun. Hopefully people enjoy them, and hope you guys enjoy your week of spring break if you're on it. If you're like us and our kids are out of school, sometimes we want the kids to go back to school next week, but we love them all.
Right on.
Well, I do think that we should not leave without. John received a bronze for his Hawaiian shirt collection, and I think all of us are just. John, here's to you.
I have
some discriminating photos of him.
Doesn't Gary Clark ask you about your shirts too? He's probably.
And John, the bronze medals are my favorite. So you're kidding.
Well, just so you know, I have a new shirt coming in for the 52-week anniversary. So,
Which song are you gonna wear?
we'll have to see.
Modeling of the feet. All
righty. Well, cheers, everyone. I want to wish everybody a great week. Thank you for joining us again.
Cheers.
Good health and good wine. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.